Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, we're going to be turning the pages back and taking a look at one of the very first Kingdom Hearts 1 trailers, known as the beta trailer. The very first trailer that gave us a full-blown idea as to exactly what Kingdom Hearts is going to be about. For the most part, all of the content that is seen within this trailer ended up following through for the final product, though there are some key differences here and there that I definitely do want to pick through at some stage. The most interesting of which is a few quotes that appear right at the end of the trailer. The beginning quotes talking about "I don't know if this world is for real or not" is obviously a quote that stuck through for the final product, the famous Sora line that we see at the very beginning of the game. The last three quotes that appear in the trailer are just super interesting as they perfectly align up with what ended up ensuing at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 when specifically looking at Sora's fate. Some of you guys might already know about this as it has been brought up here and there within the community, but I definitely wanted to get around to doing a video of my own just talking about this whole thing as it's pretty wild. It seems as if Tetsuya Nomura has held on to this idea of what happened at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 towards Sora for a very long time, since the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts. So for those of you who haven't seen this quote, let's read it out right here. So the quotes are, "That's right, Sora, your body, your soul, your whole existence, they're all going to disappear." The next one is, "Come on guys, we've got to save Sora." And the final one, "Please Sora, don't go." So of course at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, due to Sora using the power of waking one too many times, with the final time being used to save Kairi, both Sora's heart and body perished, with his soul traveling to the final world. A world that is one step before that of death. Think of it as almost a heaven of sorts, but not completely. The souls that reside within the final world are there because of the fact that they still have strong ties to people within the real world and still serve a purpose. It seems to be that Tetsuya Nomura ended up having this very idea for the very first Kingdom Hearts game. And you can imagine the story would have taken a very different turn compared to the story that has ensued for so many years now, if of course this concept was placed in the very first Kingdom Hearts game. This would ultimately mean that for the next Kingdom Hearts game after Kingdom Hearts 1, whatever it would have been, if it was Chain of Memories or 2, Sora wouldn't have been the main protagonist if this concept was used from the get-go. And what's more is obviously a lot of what we ended up seeing within that beta trailer was used for that of the final product. Sora is still visiting all of those familiar Disney worlds, the destruction of Destiny Islands, Donald and Goofy searching in Traverse Town for the Key Bearer. Clearly this whole concept of Sora perishing is one that was actually changed quite late in development. It seems as if the team had a complete 180 on exactly what ended up happening at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. Something interesting that I do want to bring up from the Kingdom Hearts 1 Ultimania is that Kairi was originally planned to be a playable character. This is what was stated by Tetsuya Nomura. "With the heroines of the other titles I've worked on so far, since I wasn't the only person in charge of the plot, I had to be more careful with them than other characters, and it was difficult to have full control, but this time I was allowed to draw exactly as I pleased. During development, we floated the idea of having Kairi being playable, and I wanted to depict Kairi's personality even more, e.g. against Sora, against Riku, and her past. But due to circumstances, we had to postpone those ideas for now." This piques my interest a lot, because it does definitely come across as Kairi speaking the words of "please don't go" and that we have to save Sora. We're most certainly up to a point in the series now where this whole idea of Sora vanishing has obviously come to fruition, and that Kairi is likely to be the one that will bring Sora back. Obviously a lot of Melody of Memory will hopefully cover these grounds a little bit. We do also know that everybody else connected to Sora will also play their part in bringing him back too, but for the most part I think it's going to come down to Kairi. I believe the whole Oath to Return thing, that is the new subtitle for this next Kingdom Hearts saga, heavily insinuates some sort of promise that has has been made between both Kairi and Sora. Even though I definitely do believe that Riku's probably going to have a major role in this as well, and that Oath to Return probably has something to also do with Yozora and his lady. Kairi, I feel, is the big figure here. So putting 2 and 2 together with these quotes in the beta trailer, as well as also knowing that at some stage they were planning on having Kairi playable in Kingdom Hearts 1, maybe there was going to be a segment in the original ending where we did have to save Sora, we were playing as Kairi, that obviously didn't happen, and those quotes that we see at the very end of the beta trailer are spoken by Kairi, just after we've finished our final boss battle playing as Kairi. The next game then would follow up with a Kairi installment. I feel like, no doubt, sometime in the future we may get this, even though Melody of Memory, as spoken by Tetsuya Nomura, is being helmed by that of Kairi. She is being dubbed as the protagonist, of which there still isn't a fully blown Kairi game, as even though it is to do with Kairi through and through, we are still playing as a memory version of Sora and other characters. We're not in the boots of Kairi, literally. It's also really interesting to think about who would have spoken the lines of Sora's body disappearing and whatnot, as I do believe that is separate to the 2 final quotes with how we need to save Sora and no Sora please don't go. Again, I believe those 2 final ones are probably Kairi in that aspect, but in regards to who's saying the whole Sora disappearing thing, most likely Ansem. I would say that probably from the initial get-go, Ansem was always meant to be the main antagonist, though it would be interesting to know if Square ever did have any other plans for a different antagonist at first, and then ended up changing it up, as there were just so many ideas floating around about Kingdom Hearts 1 and how to execute it, as we've seen through a lot of different beta content, removed content, and interesting other interviews within Ultimanias. This probably would have been Ansem from the get-go, and maybe he would have had a slightly different character arc connecting onto these words. But of course we do know that young Master Xehanort pretty much says these exact words in Kingdom Hearts 3, with how Sora is abusing the power of waking, there is a price to pay, and that his time in this world is up. This could most certainly be in reference to the Sora sacrifice scene in Kingdom Hearts 1, where Sora uses the Keyblade of Heart to unleash Kairi's heart out of his own, the result of which is Sora becoming a Shadow Heartless. Though to be fair, matching up exactly what's said in this quote with Sora losing his body, his soul, his existence, it doesn't entirely match up with becoming a Heartless, because Sora wasn't completely wiped out. He was still very much there, just in a Shadow Heartless form. He obviously was brought back due to the light of Kairi, so I do feel as if these are just 2 completely different concepts, though they could have been mixing around at the same time before obviously Tetsuya Nomura got the laws down towards everything. Keep in mind, this was still during development when they were trying to get the kinks out towards the entire lore and all that kind of stuff. One thing though that this without a doubt confirms is that Tetsuya Nomura has a bunch of ideas when it comes to developing the stories of each Kingdom Hearts installment. Some ideas he may plan on initially using in a said installment, but will then follow up with wiping that idea to maybe use later on down the track. We have also seen Tetsuya Nomura use different things that have appeared in a previous Kingdom Hearts game many years ago, didn't overly have too much meaning at first, but is later followed up upon. A prime example of which is obviously the Arc device that appeared in Kingdom Hearts 1, that strange device that is seen in the end of the world, which now has more relevance than ever due to that of Union Cross with an update that came out this year, as well as the upcoming Melody of Memory. We're now finally, about 18 years after the fact, getting context towards it. You could also apply the same to this quote that appeared in the beta trailer, as this trailer was available for public viewing and was never followed up upon, but was later utilized in the long-awaited Kingdom Hearts 3 towards everything that ensues with Sora at the very end, 17 years after the fact. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that Tetsuya Nomura initially comes up with, but decides to put it to the side, keep it boiling there, as it can either be followed up with context later on, or could be rather better executed in a different sense in a future installment. What this does confirm to us though is this whole idea of Sora perishing, Sora almost pretty much dying, has been an idea that has been swirling around in Tetsuya Nomura's head for 17 years. between the very first Kingdom Hearts game and Kingdom Hearts 3. That's pretty wild. Now guys, that is all for today's video. Please do share your thoughts in the comment section down below, as I would love to hear them. However dudes, I'm Cynical, hopefully you had a fantastic day, and I'll catch you dudes in the next one. Peace.